It's unclear why starlings in winter roost in large groups, but there are benefits from communal heat as well as protection against predators. You often see small groups of starlings in mid to late after winter bloom. Where have all the starlings gone? We do not know why or where they have gone. An annual winter feature of Belfast's Albert Bridge over many, 50 or more years, disappeared after 2019. The spectacle of hundreds of birds gathering in moving clouds, beautifully coordinated, was reduced to less than 30 by January 2022. In January 2023, I counted a flock of only 8 birds. So, what has happened? There are several possible causes for this decline. A. Warmer winters over recent years means fewer birds from GB in Europe wintering in Ireland. B. The numbers of starlings in the UK has declined over recent years by over 50% between 1995 and 2020, and by around 10% between 2010 and 2020. Meanwhile, Northern Ireland numbers are broadly stable over these periods. C. Increased construction work in late 2019 and subsequent increased and brighter lighting on the bridge itself and adjacent areas. This latter is currently believed to be the most likely cause of the loss of the murmuration. Here's the same space in 2007-8. It is unclear why starlings in winter roost in large groups, but there are benefits from communal heat as well as protection against predators. We often see small groups of starlings in mid to late after winter noons, gathering in the trees or on telephone wires, or in this case, the high tension cables in East Belfast. These noisy gatherings are sometimes referred to as starling parliaments. They grow in numbers over time as small groups fly in from the feeding grounds in the countryside and gardens. They perch, fidget, make short flights, returning back and chatter among themselves. This goes on for some time until groups begin to depart, in this case to the west, along the line of the Albert Bridge Road, where they join in the flocks circling above the bridge. These swirling clouds of birds are murmurations, supposedly from the noise the birds make. However, it is hard to hear that above the noise of rush hour traffic on the bridge. As the flock reaches maximum size, small groups start to break out and dive under the arches of the bridge to roost on the network of girders beneath. This spectacle used to regularly attract groups of spectators, both local and from afar. The gentleman nearest the camera was a business visitor from the United States. He said he'd never seen such a sight before. I have to confess that cycling home over the bridge for many winters, the starlings went largely unnoticed, unless a dropping landed close, or worse, landed on my jacket. big puzzle presented by these large synchronized flocks is, why are there no collisions? How does the individual bird know how and when to turn? Until recently, this was assumed to be some sort of innate knowledge. The advent of high-speed photography and computing has led to the discovery that each single bird is aware of the space around them. They fly closer to their side neighbours than to those in front and behind. Computer simulations suggest that each individual bird keeps track of up to 7 neighbours and adjusts their flight based on what the neighbour does. And all of this while flying as fast as they can. The flock initially reduced quite quickly, and then more slowly over the next hour or so. Small groups kept breaking off under the bridge. This gradual decline in number continued until the sky was quite dark, and then suddenly the show was over for another night. In contrast to the spectacular display in the evenings, preparatory to roosting, the dawn exit is low-key. As first light brightens the eastern sky, small groups emerge from the bridge arches and head off on their way to feed. As the morning brightens, the groups leaving get a little larger, and over the space of about an hour, the roost is deserted. Other birds like the gulls and the cormorants join the avian traffic, along with the morning aircraft contrails.
The cormorants heading upstream.
In 2019, I began to film the Starlings again, using a digital camera. The 2007 footage seen so far was shot on 8mm tapes, which were later converted to digital format. Starting out again at Hollywood Arches, I was immediately struck by how many fewer birds there were. The general pattern of restless behaviour was the same, but the number of birds was much less. Unlike in 2007, the birds did not spread along the wires between the pylons. They were all concentrated around the pylon at the back of the health centre. Going from Hollywood Arches down to the Albert Bridge, I found a much diminished flock compared with 2007. Groups peeled off the main flock to roost under all 3 arches more or less equally. They did not seem to be disturbed by the barge traffic through the North Arch each evening. The river Lagan was being dredged all the way from Stranmillis to the Lagan Weir in 2019. coming back in January 2022 looking for starlings at Hollywood Arches. They were not at the health centre, but had moved further east along the high tension cables and pylons to between Percy Street and Victoria Park. There were similar numbers as in 2019, flocking on and off the wires. Before heading off, however, this time they moved north across the lower docks and not west towards the Albert Bridge. Has Belfast lost this great spectacle for good? Almost certainly, but possibly not. A murmuration at Murmuration in Cornwall disappeared in 2020, with the birds moving into the town of Penzance. They'd come back into Murmuration marshes in 2021. We can only hope.